And if you're a Tom Baker fan, look away. If you're rooting for Marc McDowell, you're jumping up and down right now. Very lopsided match. The first match wasn't very close either after about the first 6 frames. It was 266 to 198. McDowell beating Marshall Holman. Marshall leaving this week with a check worth $5,000.
That's an intensity. I mean, he's lapse in concentration right now. There's not the need. He seems to be the type of player that responds to that need.
Marc McDowell this week was 3rd after the first round, led the second round, back to 3rd after 3. After 4 rounds of play, he was 7th and dropped to 8th, and then last night just edged out Rod Pasteur to qualify number 5 for this evening's telecast.
Oh! He's getting every break as he chops the 6 off the 10. It comes out of the back and gets that 10.
Meanwhile, Tom Baker's saying, what is happening?
Watch it as it goes back to the pit area, comes all the way out and gets the 10 pin. He can do no wrong right now.
I would never have played it that way, Mike, and Mark probably wouldn't have either, but he'll take anything he can get at this stage as Tom Baker just tries to get the ball to finish in the pocket. Stay there. All right. That's what I want to see. A little strike. Look at Tommy Baker out there trying to make the best of a very difficult situation. Oh,
Tom,
my goodness.
Who uses a wet towel to put his hand on all the time. I think he's the only player on the PBA Tour that does that. It's just total foreign to me to even think of a wet towel rather than a dry one, but he's used it for years.
Well, when you consider the fact that back in 1981 he won 3 straight titles and earned over $100,000, this guy can flat bowl. Don't kid yourself. As he bounces back and just throws himself a double, smiles a little bit, and I'm sure his wife back in Buffalo is cheering as well for Tom Baker. Stay tuned. It leads by the speed limit. 55 pins right now, but Baker doubled in the 6th and the 7th.
Well, it's gone up to 65 in some states.
Only in rural areas. And there you see Miss Patty Brash and also Johnny Campos representing the Miller Brewing Company. And, boy, I don't think you'd find 2 bigger bowling fans anywhere in the United States. Johnny, a former PBA staff member, and of course Miss Patty Brash, one of the outstanding young executives involved in the bowling industry.
With a tremendous sense of humor.
Oh, she does. She's a million laughs, isn't she? Very energetic, very entertaining. And so is this young gentleman, Marc McDowell, who tries to run it out that a little high. Mike, might he be using this time in match number 2 to start to make some slight adjustments? Because the lanes appear to be breaking down.
He certainly should, Denny. Right now it's 2 shots in a row that have gone high, and he expected that one to be in the pocket, and it didn't. So he's gotten 2 big breaks to go right to the heart of the pins like that and break up the split. And even though we have written Tom Baker out of this match, he is still potential 212 if he would strike it all the way out. Marc McDowell going at a 225 pace if he'd strike spare the rest of the way out.
Well, that would be the greatest comeback in PBA history, wouldn't it?
It certainly was. It would be.
Well, Mike, you unfortunately are one of those who authored the lowest game in the history of this tournament in this bowling center, a 153, although Randy Peterson also shot 153. You can get mixed up on this pair, can't you?
Well, yeah, obviously you can. I got mixed up pretty bad.
Okay, talk yourself out of that one. It's amazing. People at home probably think, how could the pros get like that? But doggone it, it's tough out there.
Well, if you get a couple bad breaks early in the match, sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. Nice adjustment there. He made a little move left with his feet, and it looked like with his target, as we're sitting right behind him on lane 15.
Well, Marc McDowell's got Tom Baker in a chokehold right at this stage, and he's just hanging on for dear life. Doesn't want to give him any room whatsoever. But Baker, with a couple of strikes here, could make it interesting down the stretch.
And, well, that's it. He just suddenly has found it right away. And Tom is doing something different than he's ever done before, in that he's always struggled with getting his hand in the ball. Now he's putting his hand into the ball as it's on the ball return, and then picking it up, and he's ready to go right then and there.
Tom Baker's had a history, and there you see it, loads it up right there, picks it up, and the left hand under for support. He's had a history of wrist problems with that right hand. He did have corrective surgery back in '78 and bounced back brilliantly, but the wrist is always going to be a problem for him, as he told me earlier last night, as he comes back with a four-bagger, and I guess that's the true grit of a fine professional who has 7 PBA titles to his credit.
And that marvelous, easygoing attitude that he has. I mean, he never got down. He kept smiling. I could never do that. I tell you,
that's a great lesson, though, for the younger players. If you get all whacked out of shape and you start going crazy, you'll get beat in a hurry. You've got to settle down and make good, tough shots.
And right now, Marc McDowell's got to get up here and fill 2 frames to keep him locked out. That's the best kind of fill right there.
The only problem is Baker can't do anything other than strike at this stage, and Marc McDowell, bowling brilliantly thus far, is headed for the semifinal match.
And he could strike out this game for 255 with another 9-strike performance.
Boy, really slumping, isn't he?
Yeah.
Shot 268 the first game. Well, it's his kind of an evening thus far.
Just like Ambletto last week. Ambletto started 260, 250 his first 2 games last week. Shows you the caliber of the young competition on the PBA Tour. Leaves a 10-pin, but that's more than enough to have the victory. He's going to go on to face Hugh Miller.
The first left-handed that we'll see. And, of course, the tournament's top seed, Scott Devers, also left-handed out of Centerville, Indiana. So a little variety here this evening. So a couple of players that really hook it, and a couple of left-handers, and it's just amazing to me the number of different factions of types of players on the PBA Tour, and how you get so many different types of players on each telecast. It's amazing. There are so many different ways, I guess, to strike out here. And speaking of a man who used to strike quite often, there he is, our general manager here at Golden Pin Lanes, Pete Thomas, and his lovely wife. And Pete, as he mentioned in the Bowling News, won his very first PBA tournament that he ever entered in Waukegan, Illinois.
They're a bowling family. Sandy, I've known for years, and their son Mike bowled in the tournament.
Yeah, Mike is 20 years old and is about 6'5", and I think he's still growing. McDowell keeps the pressure on and whacks the pocket one more time for a beautiful 234 game, and he is, as Harry Golden would say, is the bowler with a hot hand. Tom Baker at this point just trying to fill out the match, as it were.
3-6-10. So the veterans are yet to bowl 200, and the rookies, well, he's no longer a rookie, he's in his 2nd year.
Yeah, but he's still wet behind the ears.
Averaging over 250.
Tom Baker will head on next week to Austin with $6,000 in his pocket from his effort this week. He's really had an amazing comeback. I talked to him quite a while last night about that wrist, and he said, it's never going to get any better. I'm just hopeful that by shortening up my span and making some other adjustments in the pitch and the grip that I can prolong my career. But that's got to be tough, Mike, when you're in a situation where you have to bowl with pain and bowl with a hand that really isn't 100%.
And Tom is what we call a feel bowler. He likes to get that ball to feel exactly right in his hand, and when he gets that feel, he's hard to beat.
Well, no question about that. He set a number of PBA scoring records, but he didn't have quite enough here in Tucson this evening as he loses match number 2 to final 234 to 189. So the youngster from Madison, Wisconsin continues to climb the PBA ladder. He'll face off with Hugh Miller of Mercer Island, Washington in the semi.